Good evening and welcome to the North Bend City Council meeting for February 3rd, 2026. Will the clerk please call roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Errol Tremolata.
Here.
Councilmember Brendan Elwood. Councilmember Mark Jocelyn.
Present.
Councilmember Heather Cullen.
Here.
Councilmember Rob McFarland.
Here.
Councilmember Christina Rustick.
Present.
Councilmember Susan Torgerson.
Present.
All are present with the exception of Councilmember Elwood, who is excused, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Would you be kind enough to lead us in the flag salute?
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, I love seeing a crowded house, so welcome everybody and good evening. And Mayor Pro Tem Tremolata, we'll get right to it. Will you make the motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve the February 3rd, 2026 City Council agenda as written.
Second.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Mr. Tremolata and seconded by Mr. Jocelyn. All in favor?
Mayor,
Pardon me?
before we get there,
Oh, yeah.
I would like to remove item 2 payroll to come after the item currently number 9, I believe, on the agenda salary schedule, purely as a procedural step that we should look at payroll for January after we approve the schedule.
Thank you very much. We will do that right now. We're just approving the agenda. And then that's
Understand, but we needed to pull it.
we are pulling it. So that is just fine. Okay, we can do that. So that's going to be down towards the bottom at 9. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our.
Need the
Yeah, we
vote.
accept it.
Mayor, we need the vote to solidify the agenda, moving number 2 down past 9.
Okay, that is correct. We're moving 2 down past 9. Can we take a vote on that? Let's all in favor. Let's start with that.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll go forward from there. So let's see, moving on to consent. There are 7 items on our consent agenda. But before we go any further, council, this is a time when you can pull off any consent agenda item for debate. Anyone interested? Oh, we
Mayor,
did.
just point of order, we did that.
Sweeping them by. Okay, so let's move on to audience participation. If there's anyone.
Mayor.
Oh, God. Okay, let's adopt the consent agenda as
Mayor?
amended. Thank
Yes, I move approval of the consent agenda as amended.
you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion does go forward and is approved. Thank you very much. Now can we go on to audience participation? If there's anyone wishing to speak on an item on the agenda or not on the agenda tonight, please come to the podium at this time. Please state your name and please spell your name for the clerk, if you don't mind, your last name.
I have my
And you
shoulder
have
hat
3
on
minutes
today.
to speak for the record.
I am Jen Kirk, and I am from Snoqualmie, representing Reclaim today. Was there any other information you needed? That's good.
Yeah.
Mayor and council members, thank you for the time, attention, and care you continue to give to human services in our community, especially in the midst of financial uncertainty. I don't take lightly the balancing act you face. Weighing limited resources while trying to meet growing needs is no small task, and your efforts don't go unnoticed. I'm here as the executive director of Reclaim, but also as part of a network of human service providers who work closely together in the Snoqualmie Valley. Something that may be difficult to understand from the outside is just how connected our work really is. We meet often, we collaborate frequently, we share ideas, and we step into support whenever needed. This collaboration is not accidental. It's what allows a relatively small network of nonprofits to meet very big needs. We deeply trust and support one another. Because of that, funding decisions don't just impact one organization at a time. They impact the ecosystem of care that families and individuals rely on. When one provider is weakened or excluded, the strain shows up everywhere else. Continued investment across agencies helps keep that safety net intact and functional for this community we all serve. That being said, I want to thank you for your commitment to funding the majority of our human service providers rather than only a select few. Your approach reflects a real understanding of how our network of care works in the Valley. I'm grateful for the thoughtfulness in supporting agencies, including Reclaim, that are responding to the current nationwide funding crisis, while also recognizing the importance of sustaining the broader provider community. My hope is that none of my colleagues are overlooked or left behind in the process, because it truly takes all of us working together to meet the needs we see every day. I also wanted to speak specifically about CarePoint Clinic. CarePoint is an extraordinary asset and a quiet pillar in our community. Misty Messer and her team have been providing high-quality, free medical and dental care in North Bend residents and beyond since 2016. Their mobile medical services are especially meaningful for neighbors living in poverty, people who may lack transportation, stable schedules, or the ability to navigate traditional healthcare systems. Meeting people where they are removes real barriers and often means the difference between early care and a full-blown medical crisis. That kind of access protects not only individual health, but family stability and community well-being. I urge your Human Services Committee and this council to approve CarePoint's application for funding in your next budget cycle. At the end of the day, we all share the same goal: a community where people are healthy, stable, and able to contribute and thrive. Human service funding is one of the many ways we collectively build that reality. Thank you for your partnership, for your past and current support, and for prioritizing how vital the entire network of care is for this Valley. I gratefully appreciate being able to work alongside of all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam Mayor, council members, esteemed staff. I'm Terry Pottmeyer. Do you need me to spell that, Susie?
No.
Thank you. I'm here tonight in my capacity as a board member for the Snoqualmie Valley Food Bank, and we are here to express our sincere gratitude for the city's recent award of funding for the food bank for 2026. The city is a very important partner for us, and with this renewed financial support, you continue to demonstrate your leadership and commitment to achieving our shared mission, which is to end food insecurity in our community. So thank you. As you know, making sure that everyone is fed in our community is a mission that we share, not only with you, the city, but also with the entire community. We cannot and do not do our work alone. So with that in mind, I would also like to take the opportunity with Jen to thank you for the funding that you have allocated to the other human service organizations in North Bend. These organizations working together weave a safety net of support for the most vulnerable members of our city. In fact, each month, as clients visit the food bank to receive food, they also have the chance to meet with many of these same partners to access additional resources that they need to achieve long-term stability. So thank you for funding their important work as well. Looking ahead, like Jen, I hope that in 2027, our city can together find a way to include funding for CarePoint in the Human Service Grant Award Program. This key partner brings mobile health care to clients at the food bank, which is a critical resource and support for those who often have no access to any kind of health care. Recognizing with you the challenging financial constraints that confront the city, I live in hope that we can find a creative way to also support CarePoint's work in the future. Thank you for your support of human services, the food bank, and the entire community.
Thank you, Terry. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Miller, members of the City Council and staff. My name is Linda Grez, Grez, and I'm speaking on behalf of Snoqualmie Valley Indivisibles, a local group with 1,100 members, many of whom are behind me tonight, from North Bend and the Valley. I live just outside city limits. First, thank you for your public service. We genuinely value the strong, respectful relationships in our community and appreciate the way you approach public safety and community trust. Your work as public citizens to protect our community has never been more important. Unfortunately, troops of unsupervised and unaccountable DHS, ICE, and Border Patrol agents are increasingly being weaponized in communities around the country. They are often acting illegally, unethically, and without accountability. Court rulings this week describe cruel and inhumane acts, including tear gassing peaceful demonstrators, using young children as bait, arresting and detaining U.S. citizens without cause, invading homes without warrants, and arresting people at court hearings. This is escalating. Untrained agents are endangering the public by violating their own public safety guidelines and executing people in the street. Military-style weapons and brutal tactics are used to frighten people into acquiescence so agents can meet their daily arrest quotas for personal financial bonuses. Our country's heritage of the rule of law and due process is under siege. Escalating tensions mean ill-trained agents will act recklessly, which could cause riots and excuses for occupying military troops. This is not the American way, and we must all resist being complicit. Our community is fearful about reckless and unaccountable agents. People are afraid to send children to school and attend lawful court hearings. Many live in fear of being snatched without a trace or simply executed. We request that the city proactively evaluate its policies in dialogue with residents and act to safeguard our community. Policies requiring agents wear identification badges and body cams and banning face masks are our first steps. City law enforcement can protect the rule of law by documenting what is happening. City law enforcement should perform investigations of injuries and street homicides. The city should prevent the seizure of city-owned properties for immigration enforcement operations without court orders. Ban the use of tear gas on nonviolent demonstrators. Our legislator is considering some bills to help which may or may not pass, and we already have some guidance around local non-cooperation with immigration enforcement. But this is a fluid situation, and on a daily basis we confront what was once unimaginable. The risks are increasing, and your obligation as public servants is to act decisively to protect and strengthen our community by protecting our people by all means possible. Thank you again for your service.
Good evening, I'm Jess Ream. I live in
Thank you.
town. Last name is Ream. All of you are here in these seats because your neighbors, your friends, and your community thought you were the right choice to keep North Bend healthy and safe. Like others here, I watch what's happening in Minnesota, but it's happening everywhere now in varying degrees. Every city and town will get their turn with this. I have people say, I can't believe this is happening. But we know better. This administration told us exactly what they were going to do. We just didn't believe them. If we had taken them seriously, if we had believed them then, we would have had more time to prepare and be proactive. I agree with many specifically policy ideas suggested, but I want you to prepare like this will happen here in North. Hear them when they threaten to detain our friends and family, when they threaten our elections, and when they threaten to turn back the clock on human and constitutional rights. You're here because we believed in you, and now we need you to believe them and act. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak today? Anybody? Oh, hi, Deb. Come on up.
It's always so awkward. After such powerful talks, here I am to talk about something lighter. So Deb Landers, 14615 438th Avenue Southeast in North Bend, here to represent North Bend Art and Industry. And I just wanted to share a little bit about our growth and a little bit about just our first month in 2026. So we started off with our annual planning meeting, which was in downtown Seattle. An international consulting company loaned us the top floor of their building. So we had a 360-degree panoramic view of Seattle. It was amazing. And we got some great work done on how we're going to move forward in 2026 and beyond. We followed that up with the Tuesday Muse Day. It's our second one. The first one, we had about 25 people come. This one was about 60 people. So as all of our events, they grow dramatically each and every time we hold them. At this event, we had 3 local artists and 60 people coming to mingle with the artists, view their amazing work. And that work is on our one of our walls at the center for another 2 months. So if you have time, come and see what we're doing at the Center for Creativity and view their amazing work. We followed that up with, what do we follow it up with? Something else big. It's gone from my head. And then we finished up January with a CPR first aid training for all of our board members and our key volunteers. And we're going to continue that with anyone that's actually supporting work and classes at the center and supporting those studios at the center. This month on February 1st, we kicked off the Curious Creators, and that's for 6 to 10-year-olds. It's free access, art, programming, activities for that group of kids on Sunday afternoons from 2 to 4. There was 4 activities. They were super cute and super cool. On our first one, we had 24 people. And again, we're expecting that to grow too. This really just highlights that, yes, creativity is exciting and people want to partake, but it's much more than just creativity. It is about community, people coming together and connecting, and that is our core mission for the Center for Creativity. So as always, we appreciate your support, and I wanted to give you a list of our February happenings, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, anybody else wish to speak tonight? Anybody online, Phil?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
That's okay. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to announcements, presentations, and appointments. And we have a presentation tonight, King County Sheriff's Office, ILA. Mr. Chaw, would you like to let council know and inform us all tonight?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Give me a second. Let me share my screen. I'll go ahead and start, Mayor. For the record, Martin Chaw, Finance Director. This is agenda item number 8 on your agenda, Council. This item was heard before the Public Health and Safety Committee earlier today, as well as the Finance and Administration Committee. The purpose of the presentation is to review with you the proposed King County Sheriff's Office interlocal agreement for policing services, provide to you highlights of the agreement, as well as go over the staffing plan. For council as well as the listening public, the King County Sheriff's Office, ILA, the council provided the mayor the authority to negotiate and execute an agreement with the Sheriff's Office under AB 25044 as well as AB 25050. There's no specific action needed from council tonight, as you've already provided authority for the mayor to enter into this agreement. However, staff wanted to provide this update in a public setting for you, council, as well as for the listening public. Throughout this process, city staff has provided regular updates to city council, as you recall in our weekly updates to you. The interlocal agreement that we have before you, and a copy is attached in your packets, is identical to the one that was included in the county's RFP to the city back in mid-2025. And it is the same copy as is for all other contracted cities. Under this contract, we will be operating under what's called a flex model from April 1st to December 31st. The first 3 months of 2026, as you recall, we will continue to receive policing services through the city of Snoqualmie. And then starting in January 1st, 2027, we would convert to what's called a city services model or a dedicated model, where we will have 2 patrol officers in the city at all times, except for the hours between midnight and 5:59 a.m., where we have only one officer. I won't go over the details here, council, but the flex model here is defined as services within the city, and patrol staff would be expected to also respond to calls for service outside of the city if needed. As I mentioned earlier, once the city transitions into the city department model, we'll have dedicated officers within the city to provide services. The level of service to the city is defined under the ILA Section 3.1, and the substantive portion of this is shown in Exhibit B, and this is shown to you on the next slide here. This is what the county calls their cost book, and rather than going through the details of this with you, I just want to highlight several areas for you, council. The first area, and let me turn my pointer here. The first area here are the types of services that are being provided or purchased by the city. This includes a police chief, precinct commanders, patrol officers, as well as specialty service units, such as hostage negotiation teams, major crimes investigation, major accident responses. The second section here summarizes the one-time costs that is required of the city to help onboard the city in terms of hiring new staff for service to the city. This cost is $1.2 million, amortized over 60 months. And then in terms of the FTEs, at full service, we will be receiving the equivalent of about 10.6 FTEs on a regular basis. Under the flex model contract, the FTE equivalent is equal to about 8.2 FTEs. And the first year cost is just under $2.5 million. In terms of staffing, this chart here was developed in conjunction with City Chief Hall. And what it shows is over the 24 hours of a day, the number of officers within the city. And as you can see, we have two shifts. Then we have a power shift. And the power shift is when the sheriff's office includes an additional shift to provide services to the city during the peak times of the day. And then there's a swing shift as the first two shifts exit. And then there's the graveyard shift, which again, as I mentioned earlier, provides services between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. We've highlighted for you here several hours in orange, and this represents those hours of the 24-hour day where we will have more than two officers on duty within the city. As you can see, within this, there's about 7 hours or 8 hours of the 24 hours days that we will have more than two officers within the city. In terms of the estimated cost for services, again, 2026 is a transition year where we will receive services under, again, what's called the flex model. And then starting in 2027 forward, we'll be receiving services under the city department model. And as I mentioned to you at our last meeting, the costs starting in 2027 is expected to increase. And under their estimates, here, King County has provided us an estimate of between 4% and 6% cost escalation growth, which means by the year 2031, our costs would range somewhere between $5.4 to $5.9 million. Some highlights for you, Council, as well as the listening public in terms of key sections of the interlocal agreement. The county always provides an estimate of the cost for the following year. And our annual growth in costs is capped at the Consumer Price Index for urban wage workers. The county will also provide monthly reports on overtime usage, salary, specialty pay, as well as employee benefits. There is an annual reconciliation process for the previous year, and that's completed in March. And then there is also a provision for overtime billing for discretionary events. So, for example, if the city needed to have an officer present at one of our local festivals, and that would be in addition to the patrol officers within the city of North Bend would pay for those costs directly. Other sections to highlight within ILA, uses of the city's facility by unincorporated King County. So, for example, our dedicated officers from the county would occupy space in the City Hall Annex. If that annex is also used by unincorporated King County staff, the county will reimburse us for the unincorporated officers' use of our facilities. City costs are not will not be affected by actions or decisions as a result of another city, another contracted city. As I mentioned earlier, the city will reimburse the county for startup costs for salary and benefits. The county also engages in multi-year business planning, which is great for financial planning. And the contract also provides for a termination process. And specifically under this provision here, if the city were to decide to form its own police department, for example, or to contract with another agency, there is a process for notifying the county, as well as an 18-month wind down process for the county, and then allowing North Bend time to wind up to the next provider. The city also has a seat on their oversight committee. This is a committee that is comprised of the city managers and executives from each of the contract cities. City Administrator Emery, as well as myself, sit on this committee. And one of the key topics of discussion within this group is a update to the interlocal agreement that covers all contract cities. We would expect, we're expecting that this body of work will be complete sometime by mid-2026, and then a draft ILA would, or updated ILA will be shared with contracted cities for review after that. In terms of other transition matters, the county has been working very closely with the Snoqualmie Police Department on handing off services. This has been going very smoothly and positively. The county staff will also have a presence at the outlet mall. They would occupy the same space that the Snoqualmie Police Department currently occupies. And the county is working directly with Simon Properties on any improvements that they need at that space. And the county is expected to provide their own furniture for that space. The lease agreement for the outlet mall will be transitioned from Snoqualmie to the city of North Bend. And once we have that transition finalized, we will bring that before you, council, for review and approval. The last item is on the City Hall Annex. There is an item on your agenda tonight to authorize tenant improvements to the annex, and those improvements are to support the county sheriff's office occupancy of that annex. There is no lease agreement for that facility. The county will be occupying the space on behalf of the city. The Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife does occupy a corner of that building for which they're currently paying a lease for use of that space. I mean, that concludes my presentation, Mayor. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them now.
Thank you for that excellent presentation, Mr. Cha. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Cha?
Mr. Cha, could you just clarify for the public where the City Hall Annex is? Because I don't know that everybody's clear on that.
Sure. It is in downtown. It is across the street from the Bank of America building. Oh, sorry. It's across the street from the King County Library. Yes, I am. I've been directionally challenged all day today.
I was going to say something, but that you stole my thunder there, actually. Any other questions, Ms. Torgerson?
In the public safety meeting today, King County spoke to us, and one of the things they mentioned, and I could just mention, I was going to ask you to mention, but I could just say it, be easier. One of the things that was kind of interesting they said is that there will be twice a month, I believe, we'll have like double the shift. So like, for example, on the chart where it says on some days we'll have 8 officers because they're overlapping schedules. We'll have 4 officers. We'll have 8 officers like twice a month. So we'll have a lot of coverage in our town. I think that's pretty exciting. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rustick.
And I'd just like to build on Martin, thank you for the presentation. And it was obvious in today's public health and safety meeting when you shared the presentation, the working together relationship with the King County Sheriff's Office and our Snoqualmie Police Department has been outstanding. And I look forward to them continuing to work together as we have many of similar issues with the city of Snoqualmie. So thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else from council? Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, given the public in attendance this evening, I'm going to take this moment to acknowledge you, Mayor, the Mayor in Snoqualmie, and the police chief for their strong letter that came out earlier affirming that the local police, and there's a question here for you, Martin, do not interrogate folks about immigration status. If you need the help of the police department, if you're in an abusive relationship, if you need help, you should feel able to reach out to the local law enforcement providers to seek assistance with the understanding and assurance that you will not be questioned about your immigration status. Do you know that that's also the policy of the King County Sheriff's Office?
I believe it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I was going to just say, I think I recall, and maybe staff can.
Councilmember Torres, can you move your mic closer to you?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think I recall. Great. I think that I recall we're having an update from King County Sheriff in April regarding that.
We are. I will just say for the public and Councilmember Jocelyn's question, we adhere to state of Washington law, which is keep Washington working. That's what the local law enforcement adhere to. So the King County Sheriff's policy is almost identical to the Snoqualmie policy because that's our state law. Yes.
Did I catch everybody? All right. Well, thank you again, sir. Let's move on to our main agenda. There is a change to tonight's agenda. We're going to move item number 9 to the bottom of the agenda and to accommodate an executive meeting or session, excuse me. Let's begin with number 10. Okay, that's public hearing ordinance amending taxes, rates, and fees schedule regard our RE water utility rates. Mr. Cha, once again, I'm going to look to you. And thank you,
Mayor. Again, for the record, Martin Shaw, Finance Director. The staff report that I have here is for agenda items numbers 10 and 11 for the water rates increase ordinance, as well as for the sewer rates increase ordinance. After my remarks here, Council, I'll turn it over to Sergey Tarasov, consultant with FCS Group, where he will provide a brief presentation on the study results as well. The purpose of these two ordinances to share the results of a rate study for both the water and sewer utilities. The purpose of the study is to ensure the long-term financial sufficiency of both utilities. Self-sufficiency is an expectation and is required under state laws for utilities. Both utilities, in terms of the financial plan and the support of city services, to maintain a quality drinking water, as well as city sewer services to the city, as well as to maintain current debt service coverage requirements, as well as the city's positive AA- credit rating for the utilities. This item was advertised for public hearing on January 23rd and was also reviewed by the Council Transportation and Public Works Committee on November 12th and the Finance Administration Committee on January 13th. Tonight's action is for first reading and opening up for public hearing, Mayor. And this item would return for City Council, second reading and adoption on February 17th. Before I turn it over to Sergey, I do want to call your attention to an email that is in your packets on pages 145 and 146. This email documents several questions that we received from a community member. And the reason why I'd like to share this with council is I believe that many other community members may have similar questions about the need for a utility rate increase and what it supports. Elaine and I worked on the responses here. We feel that it provides a very clear explanation of the business case for the rate increases, and I would encourage you to review this and refer to this in your conversations with community members. Okay, so with this, I'm going to switch my screen and bring up Sergey's presentation. Right, and I see Sergey on the line. So Sergey, please go ahead.
Thank you, Martin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and thank you for taking the time to meet with me this afternoon to discuss the water and sewer rates. Now, before we dive into the presentation itself, just a quick overview of our discussion. We're going to start out with a brief background just to provide you with a high-level reminder of the rates themselves and the past time the studies were updated for these utilities. Then we'll get into the process of updating rates, just the methodology used in the rate setting world, and then dive right into the update, starting with the key assumptions that went into the update, and then leading us into the discussion of the findings and recommendations. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. Now, as a quick reminder, the last comprehensive study performed for the water and sewer utilities was around 2021. At that point in time, we did identify that a deficiency was present for both utilities, and we were not quite able to fund our ongoing obligations related to operating costs, capital, and any associated debt service. So in order for us to resolve that deficiency, we did propose, and eventually the council at that time adopted a 5-year strategy that helped address some of those needs. Now, coming out of the pandemic, we were looking at slightly reduced increases of about 2.4% inflationary or below levels. After that, we were trying to do a little bit of a catch up for the water utility. That's why you see the rates increasing about 5.5%. And the original adoption went all the way through, I believe, through 2026 for the water utility. Now, an item to note is that the study was done around 2021. It was finalized in 21 and 2020. We did see some historic levels of inflation following that period that did not make it into that study just because it was just nobody could have foreseen those inflationary pressures. So the study that we're updating this time around, which started in 2025, tries to catch up and account for that historical level of inflation and all the updated financial and capital and growth information that the city has experienced since that time. Now, in addition to the water and sewer rates, we did perform the stormwater rates. Those results were presented in September of last year. So today we're simply focusing on the water and sewer utilities. Now, a quick reminder in the background as well is that unlike general funds or streets, our enterprise funds or utilities are enterprise funds, which basically means they have to operate sort of like a business where they're self-sufficient. They're funding themselves through specific utility rates on a monthly ongoing basis. We should not be relying on external sources such as a general fund or any kind of subsidies or contributions from anywhere else. These are pretty much self-sufficient utilities that need to set rates on par to meet their ongoing obligations. Now, in terms of the process themselves, for this type of study, what we refer to as revenue requirement, we go through one analytical step that looks at the overall picture of each utility. Here, the key item to remember with the revenue requirement is it's simply put a comparison of our revenues at current levels to our ongoing obligations. We need to make sure that we not only cover our ongoing debt service, capital operating, but also our indirect costs related to financial policies. So our utilities are healthy and operating financially stably, not just today, but also into the future. Now, looking at some of the key assumptions that were utilized to develop the analysis, the first item to note is that we're trying to keep the level of service we provide to our customers at baseline. Again, the study will not be changing any kind of level of service or reducing service to our customers. We're maintaining the service we are providing. Currently, there is a city tax of 6% on water and sewer revenues. We're not proposing any adjustments to that tax level. Again, that is maintained at the current level of 6%. The plan for capital identified in this discussion for that forecast period of 26 to 30, we're not anticipating any new debt service. Any funding will happen through ongoing rates or one-time revenue sources, such as the growth-related sources from general facility charges, but no new debt is being incorporated into the analysis. There are a couple items to note for the water utility. We are relying on the REIT fund transfers, about $3 million, to help us pay for a couple of water main replacement projects on Northwest 8th and Northwest 14th. Again, this is a one-time source that is eligible to help fund those projects. In addition, we are assuming that we're going to need one additional staff for maintenance purposes starting in 2026. And then lastly, we do have mitigation water purchase costs, which are starting at about $300,000 in 2026. We are forecasting for those to decline to about $10,000 per year by 2028. And the sewer utility will be maintained at current levels. Now, to forecast our costs and revenues into the future, we are looking at a starting period of 25 since the study commenced last year. In order for us to forecast the end of the year, we still have to utilize 25 numbers, but our focus period really is for 2026 through 2030, so that 5-year forecasted period. Revenues were based on historical actuals aligned with budgetary information. We are using that data to forecast our revenues into the future, applying a growth rate of about 2% for the water utility and 2.5% for the sewer utility. The basis for our expenses was tied to the budget. We did spend quite a bit of time with your staff reviewing each line item expense to make sure we're not carrying any one-time costs into the future, but also making sure that we're not deficient in any way. And if there's any needs that need to be met programmatically or in any other way beyond inflationary level of adjustments, we are making those forecasted edits to our analysis as well. Overall, we're applying inflationary factors ranging from 3% to 6%, depending on the type of expense we're forecasting. But in general, our recurring expenses are escalating at about 3.6% per year or so for each utility. Now, in terms of debt service, we do have several bonds and loans outstanding for our utilities. On the water utility, our debt service is currently $208,000 per year. Good news there is 2 of our loans that we have are being repaid within the next year or so. So our debt service drops down to about $64,000 per year, with 1 public works loan remaining starting in 2027 and thereafter. Our sewer debt was structured initially when we did take out the bond to pay for a treatment plant in a way that it did ramp up after a couple of years. So within our forecast period, we are ramping up to the full annual payment, going from $1.3 million per year to about $1.7 million. And then lastly, the one-time revenues coming from new development or upsizing redevelopment through the general facility charges. Again, these are one-time fees, unlike the fees that we're discussing. These fees and revenues can be used to pay for capital-related costs. That could be capital directly funding projects, or that could be capital associated with the actual annual debt service. The city's historical practice has been to utilize these funds to help offset our annual debt payments. So that is what we're forecasting as well. We're using GFCs to pay for debt service first, and then if there's any annual amounts left over, we use that amount to pay and offset our capital plan. So now let's get into each utility, specifically starting with the water utility. The primary cost driver for our water utility is the capital improvement program, and we are forecasting a need for about $11 million of projects to be completed within our forecast period. And this includes our estimated inflation into the year towards the year of construction. If you look at the table and the chart to the right, you'll see the shape of the capital. You can see some of the projects are a little bit front loaded, and then we have a couple of larger projects in the back end, and then we have a small break in the middle. The table to the left provides you with a summary of some of the key and major projects predominantly related to water main replacements that we have identified in our 6-year total plan. Now, in terms of funding sources, we are anticipating a $1 million grant to help us offset some of these costs. We have the $3 million, which we talked about, coming from the REIT fund to help us pay for some of the capital, and the rest is coming from either general facility charges on an annual basis, as well as the cash reserves we have accumulated and an ongoing rate funded capital through the use of rates. Now, when we put everything together on this slide, we get the revenue requirement. Here, the bars represent expenses made up of cash operating expenses in the dark green portion of the bar. The blue color showing you the existing debt service. As you can see in 27, it does drop down, and the share goes a lot smaller than the prior years. And then lastly, we have the yellow color, which represents net capital. And when I say net capital, this is the total cost net of any kind of external sources like grants, general facility charges, as well as the retransfer. So once we subtract those, we can see that predominantly the need for capital funding is in the tail end of the forecast. In the front end, we do have enough resources and cash reserves and so on saved up to help offset those costs. Now, the big item to note here is that when we compare our obligations to the solid black line, which represents revenues under current levels, we can see that our revenues are not sufficient to even meet our operating costs. So overall, we're not able to recover our operations, our capital plan, or the debt service under the current forecast, and the growth is not able to keep up with the increase in inflationary costs. So in summary, for the water utility, we are still lagging behind. We're not quite able to keep up with our cost pressures from both operations and the capital side. And we are actually forecasting the need to utilize reserves in 25, but also potentially in 26 and maybe slightly in 27, even with the rate strategy that we're proposing. So our recommendation to help us resolve this deficiency is an average increase for the system of about 6.5%. Now, for a typical customer, utilizing about a typical single-family home customer, I should say, using about 20 cubic meters of water consumption with a 5/8-inch meter, they could experience approximately $4.56 increase per month per year adjustment in 2026. Now, we do have an adopted increase of 5.5%. The proposal is fairly close. Again, it's about 1% higher than the prior authorized increase for 2026. A big reason for that is, again, the catch up that we have to do due to that inflationary rate pressures that we have experienced over the last 5 years that were not anticipated. And then the last slide for the water utility is really a monthly bill comparison. I always want to caution using these type of comparisons that these are slightly apples and oranges in the sense that every utility is designed differently. Every utility has a different source, the age of the system, as well as we're comparing your current rates with the proposed rates for 26. When we are performing this survey, some of the utilities are going through similar rate process that we're discussing today. So the rates were not published in full for 26-year period. So we're comparing a little bit 25, a mix of 25 rates for yours 26 rates. So again, it's always a little bit hard to do a direct apples to apples comparison, but the question does get asked. So we wanted to provide this information. Well, we're going to take a look at similar information for the sewer utility as well. So here, again, our capital plan is a bit larger. We have about $41 million of projects identified for our forecast period. A significant portion of those projects is related to the sewering of Silver Creek level of costs, which is about $23 million alone, but a significant portion of it will be funded through external sources. So again, if we look at our grant proceeds funding down below, our total grant proceeds for and external funding sources are about $25 million. We also have the Meadowbrook Sewer ULID of about $8 million with some rounding there. That again is being externally funded. So our net projects are a bit lower than the entire $41 million that we have identified. We also have several lift station and collection system projects identified. The big peak of that 2028 cost you're seeing in the chart is really tied to that sewering of Silver Creek that we discussed. So that drives that project need up front, which has a portion of the cost offset. Now, looking at the next slide where we look at the revenue requirements, here we do see a slightly better forecast, or a bit better forecast when we compare our expenses, again summarized in the solid bar, the bars made up of cash operating expenses in the green, the debt service in the blue, and net capital requirements in the yellow. When we compare these bars to our solid black line, we can see that at this utility, our line is set sufficiently enough to cover our operating costs and debt service, and we're actually able to fund a portion of the capital plan, net of contributions, on an annual basis. So our rates are sufficient to keep up with operations. The item that we really are falling slightly behind on is being able to support the capital improvement program. So in summary, for this utility, we're actually doing pretty well compared, relatively speaking, to as we were looking for the water utility. The main driver here is the capital needs that we have to address for this utility. The positive news from a rate perspective, we're able to keep the adjustments relatively close to inflation. So our forecast is about 2.5% to 3% per year for this utility, which translates to about $3.34 in 2026 for a typical single family home using about 1,500 cubic meters on a winter monthly average basis. Similar comparison here, again, slightly apples and oranges, because a lot of the utilities in this list have regional treatment versus the utility has a brand new treatment plant with a lot of debt that has accumulated to be able to fund that debt. But again, that information gets asked, so we wanted to provide it as well. And lastly, before we kind of put together the combined summary and next steps discussion, we wanted to provide you with a combined bill that your customers may experience for a typical single family home for all three utilities, including the stormwater and the flood rates. So here we have the average water bill with 20 cubic meters of consumption, the average sewer bill, which gets billed on winter average, which is a little bit less at about 15 cubic meters, and then the fixed bill for the stormwater flood services. All together, currently, your customers are paying approximately $221 with some rounding there. With the proposal, that would go up by about $12.90 to $233.84. Now, forecasting out within the next 5 years, our annual adjustments range from about 6% down to about 5% per year over that time horizon. And again, the combined bill comparison for the neighboring utilities as well. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Really what we're looking for is direction and feedback from you regarding the overall rate strategy that we presented for each utility. The 6.5%, which are about 1% larger than the prior study identified, just due to the inflationary pressures that we're seeing. And then the 2.5% to 3% for the sewer utility. At this time, we're not proposing any structural changes to your rates. We're simply would be applying the increases on across the board basis, meaning that any fee, any classes rate, specific rate would simply be adjusted proportionally by the percentage if selected or approved by council. Now, in terms of the process, next steps, the notice for public hearing was published on the January 23rd. We're here today on the 3rd to do the first reading and have open public comment. The preliminary schedule right now is to have the second reading on the 17th with the closure of the public comment. And then the goal is to have any adoption of new rates or implementation to be approximately April 1st. So with that, we can also turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Sergey. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Cha or Sergey? I look like Heather, you do.
I do. So you were comparing City of North Bend to other cities, but we have two water services in North Bend. We have the City of North Bend water and we have Salal. And so did you do a comparison to the other local water service?
We did not incorporate Salal just because they're a little bit different and unique in terms of the private association versus public utilities of similar size and nature. So we can definitely look into and provide you with those water rates. Here we wanted to look at combined utility systems that have all three services as well.
Thank you. Ms. Torgerson.
Yeah, so I see Redmond, barely I see it. I think it says 132. I was reading that they also pay for King County, so their rate is a little bit, I thought it would be higher than that. So because King County is like 7.5% and then Redmond is like 4%. So does that number include the King County information or I don't know. I just thought it was higher.
It should, it may not include the 26th rate adjustment. They're also going through that process because if the city has not publicly published their 26 rates, we were not able to list them on this comparison. So whatever the rates were listed, which I believe were $25 there on this chart. That's why I mentioned that some of these are a little bit of apples and oranges because unless a municipality publishes the rate, we can only go by what they're showing the rates are.
Okay. And I had one other question.
Okay.
When you guys are doing your analysis, when you're forecasting, do you look at potential developments we're going to have and how that might be able to help reduce costs because there'll be more payers into the system? Or is that just not something you guys put as the calculation?
Yeah, so we incorporate growth assumptions into the forecast. We're averaging the new developments at about 2% for the water utility and approximately 2.5% for the sewer utility, which translates to anywhere from 80 new homes or so for the sewer utility. These are just average numbers on an annual basis. Again, we did not have kind of a specific number of if there's a new development in the pipeline and it might have 100 units one year and then 20 units another year. We're just doing kind of an average growth that has been identified for the city's utilities.
Okay.
So we're trying to account for development paying for growth in the forecast as well as providing you with new ongoing monthly revenues on top of that.
Thank you. Anybody else from council? Mr. Tremolo?
That's okay.
Oh, excuse me.
All right. This is more of an ask for Martin for the water rates as we look at them over time in your model for long-term planning. Could we create a second model to see the impact, both negative or positive, of what it would look like to have one water system in North Bend and how that spreads out the potential increases or decreases in the capital exposure? I think we probably pick a date in the future when that makes sense, but I'll leave that up to you to see how it shakes out.
Sure, we can certainly take a look at that. What you're suggesting is a single water system, North Bend and Salal combined?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, well, let us brainstorm that and speak with FCS about what a merger like that looks like.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else from council? Ms. Rustic?
Thank you, Mayor. My question was sort of along the same lines, but not as specific as Councilmember Tremolata's. So I saw on slide 6 that there's a reduction in mitigation water for river mitigation, which is a positive in the sense of the overall costs. So my question is, what other things could we be looking at to reduce the increase in the percentages that we are proposing here?
So like you just spoke to, our capital facilities charge with water is also going to drop off now that we have the Salal mitigation hooked up, the intertie hooked up. So our payment through SBU is going to drop. Our facility charge is going to drop and almost zero out as long as it'll zero out over here over the next 3 or 4 years. Within the water rate itself, we also added one maintenance worker, and I'll have Martin or Sergey correct me if I'm wrong here. When I say it was about a 1% increase with adding that one maintenance person to the rate here. So those would be the major things there.
And Councilwoman Rustic, just so you're aware, when we first embarked on this study, the rate increase was actually much more than this. It was nearly double digits. What we've done was we worked very closely with Public Works as well as FCS to try to bring that rate down. And how we did that was we took a very close look at the capital improvement program for the water utility and pushed many projects out towards the latter half of the rate study period so that it doesn't burden the first half of the study period. And as Tom mentioned, the maintenance staff person, the new person here starting in 2026, if we were to eliminate that, we could shave 1% off of the water utility. The business case for the maintenance staff is to catch up on deferred maintenance for the water utility. Both Tom and I have spoken with maintenance staff, Mark Prey, about the needs of the water utility, and one of his concerns is the level of deferred maintenance that would continue if we didn't have additional help.
Let's see, Mr. McFarland or Mr. Johnson, do you have any? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, I believe I know what you're referencing when you're talking about the decrease in mitigation water, but for the benefit of the public, I want to make sure that they understand why that number's dropping.
Yeah, so just in here in August of 2025, we completed the Salal Intertie project. So now we will be taking mitigation water from Salal's wells instead of payment from Hobo Springs, which is SBU water. So we won't be paying SBU nearly as much as we did in the past. We'll be using Salal as our main source of mitigation. And then also with the mitigation, the facilities charge, as we're using less SBU money, that facilities charge is calculated annually. It's based on the annual growth of water volume delivered. So if we're not exceeding the max amount we've already done, we're going to be paying zero for that facility charge moving forward every year. And it's a 3-year rolling average on that facility charge. So by 2028, we should be paying basically zero for that facility charge.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, one more?
Two more questions.
You can go right ahead. Thanks.
Tom, I think this is also for you. In Sergey's presentation, noted a dip in waterline replacement projects. I believe that was the years 27 and 8. I'm not, or 26 through 28. Felt like a slowdown to me for projects identified in the leakage study. Why the dip?
I think as Martin kind of indicated earlier, it was trying to spread this cost out a little bit and balance out this rate. So we did our projects on 14th Street and 8th Street along with the sewer ULID project this past summer. That was a heavy cost up front. So we're trying to balance that out in the middle. And then we have some heavier AC water main replacement projects in 28, 29 or 29, 30. So we're just trying to kind of balance that rate out through the study.
So the water loss is seen as less costly than the replacement in a time period.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And one final question, if I may. And this is not necessarily for today, but I think it was, well, I'm not sure which council member brought it up, but GFCs. I think we here at least understand that the rate at which those come in directly impacts water rates for existing customers. I believe Sergey said went with a flat 2%. Not tonight, because I doubt you've got it at your hand, but I would like to see more information around the planning, the assumptions behind the 2%. How many actual GFCs were being planned, residential, commercial, that built into this study, and a look at the past studies for similar projections and what our actuals were. Driving at, if we exceed plan, that probably means we can slow down rate increases. And the reverse would be true, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
To answer to your last question, Councilman, to a certain extent, yes, because GFCs are used to pay for capital improvements primarily, as well as debt service. But rates are primarily used to pay for operations, ongoing operating expenses.
But the more users, the more we spread it around.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all, Your Honor.
One more? Yeah, absolutely.
And this is maybe just contextual, Tom, that you can provide where we stand today on water reserves looking forward into the summer, how water's going. We haven't had snow yet. My groundhog friend tells me we've got 6 more weeks of winter, so fingers crossed it's coming. But just to provide some context, well, we're talking about rate increases. How do we look right now for this year, and thoughts?
Well, obviously, as you indicated, the snowpack's very low, which is concerning moving into the summer. The good thing is we do have a new mitigation source with Salal that is, I will say, much more stable than the SPU source, which is directly affected by the masonry pool level up there. So when we don't have snowpack and that masonry pool level drops, there's less seepage through the hillside, which feeds Hobo Springs, which feeds our mitigation system. But now that we have Salal, that definitely makes me feel much better. I think we have up to 100 acre feet a year that we can use for mitigation purposes with our Salal agreement. So with that, that makes me feel real good moving into the far future here.
Thank you. Excellent presentation once again, and great questions. Thank you, Council. Let's see. We're going to now open to the public hearing. Is there anyone present tonight who wishes to speak to item number 10? Anybody online, Phil?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to look to Ms. Rustick for making the motion. Please.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to make the motion. No?
I believe that's a TPW. It wasn't out of TPW, or was it Rustic? Councilmember
I
Rustic, was that in
believe
your
it was
list?
I could have misread that.
FNA is.
My apologies. Is it?
Go with either.
Councilmember Colon? Okay.
I believe it's F&A. We're rolling with it, and thank you for your eyes on it, Amber. You're awesome.
Okay. A motion to approve AB 26-013, an ordinance amending the taxes, rates, and fees schedule regarding water utility rates as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until the February 17th, 2026 City Council meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Rustick and second by Mr. McFarland. Would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Rustick?
I will just say that with 2 more weeks available for the public to share their feedback, we'd love to hear from you.
Very nice. Mr. McFarland, do you have anything you'd like to add? Thank you, sir. Anybody on council wish to say anything else? No? Okay, I'll go forward then. Motion to approve AB 26-013, an ordinance amending the taxes, rates, and fees schedule regarding water utility rates is a first reading and continuing the public hearing until the February 17th, 2026 City Council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, one and all. Moving right along to item number 11, another public hearing, ordinance amending taxes, rates, and fees scheduled regarding sewer utility rates. Mr. Shaw, I'm looking back to you, and thank you for reporting back.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, Martin Shaw, Finance Director. This item increases sewer rates consistent with the presentation that we just received from Sergey, 2.5% per year for the 26 through 2031 planning period. Again, the rate increases are needed to ensure that the sewer utility is financially self-sufficient and has sufficient resources to pay for its operations and capital programs.
Thank you. I don't know if council has any more further questions, but I guess you could ask him at this point. Okay. I will now open up the public hearing. Anybody would love to speak about this item, please come forward or online. Probably not.
Not at this time,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And I think this came through Ms. Rustick again.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve AB 26-014, an ordinance amending the taxes, rates, and fee schedule regarding sewer utility rates as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until the February 17th, 2026 City Council meeting.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland. Motion by Ms. Rustick, again made by Mr. McFarland. Either of you, Ms. Rustick, like to speak to?
No additional comment.
Any additional? Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll move forward then. Motion to approve AB 26-10014, excuse me, an ordinance amending the taxes, rates, and fee schedule regarding sewer utility rates as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until February 17th, 2026 council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you again. Motion does pass unanimously. Moving right along to item number 12, motion authorizing contract with GNO for stormwater management plan update. Mr. Moore, I know you've been waiting all night. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This agenda bill is for authorizing a contract with GNO to update the city's stormwater management plan. The city's most recent stormwater management plan was prepared in 2013 by Grant Osborne and much has changed since then. In staff's opinion, updating the current stormwater management plan is the most important task moving forward with the stormwater utility. This will become a guide for city staff for everything stormwater related for years to come and will serve as a building block for some of the pending stormwater requirements the city shall have to